You're too old, and it's too late to start. Has anyone ever said that to you? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's too late to quit. And oh yeah, you're not too old. In fact, the good news is that it's always the right time to start. You've come to the right place. And me and my friends are going to share our stories of why we will never, ever throw in the towel. Welcome to the Too Late to Quit podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Iftikharuddin. Let's go. Hi, everybody. I want to start this podcast out. I'm going to read something to you. It's a definition, and feel free to play along. Of course, if you're driving, make sure you don't. I'm going to read this definition, and if you can relate, or if you know someone, or if you have a friend who exemplifies this definition, well, consider yourself identified. Imposter syndrome, also known as imposter phenomenon, is a behavioral health condition that causes people to doubt their abilities, skills, or accomplishments. People with imposter syndrome may feel like frauds or phonies and may have low self-esteem. They may also have a persistent fear of being exposed as frauds. You can't see it, but I hope you can visualize it and hear it. I am proudly raising my hand. I remember way back when, in the aughts, the 2000s, I was in Los Angeles and I was getting ready to play a show at Molly Malone's. I love that venue. It's this amazing venue, and it had just the coolest vibe, and you could go there on any night and see the most amazing bands and huge names, huge performances, just incredible venue. The staff was amazing. I don't know why I'm talking about it like it doesn't exist anymore. I'm sure it does. And I was about to go on, and I was talking to a friend, and this friend works in commercials and production, and he had just joined a new company, and he had just been given a really fancy credit card. And he had a really big salary, and he was getting ready to buy a home, and he was expressing about how it felt so strange and how he felt like it was happening to the wrong person, like they made a mistake. And I exclaimed, "Oh, imposter syndrome." And he responded, "Oh, wait, that's a thing?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You mean just like a casual thing that people talk about?" I said, "No, I actually think it might be in the DSM-4 or whatever it was at the time. And it's real." And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where good things are happening or you're creating something, and then as soon as you reach that point, you feel like an absolute, utter fraud. Why is that? And how do we break through that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have an amazing guest. He's very verbose and loquacious, and he is going to be the person who's going to be interviewed. Yes, it's me. And I want to talk to you about how I deal with this, how I confront it, and all of the fun psychological things that happen with that, because maybe if I share that with you, because we're all just here amongst friends, aren't we? If I share this with you, maybe there will be a small nugget that you can take away that will be able to assist you when that imposter shows their face. And they never knock. They're never very polite. They always have a key to your house. And they always know how to walk in silently, and then all of a sudden they're right there at the worst possible time. Have you ever noticed that? Sometimes you might be going through something. Say you're driving and you get a flat tire and a hose blows in your engine and there's coolant shooting everywhere, and you pull over to the side of the road, there's always somebody that's got a comment just ready in their pocket. Oh, it sucks. Sucks to be you today. Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for your support. I find that in those moments when we're most vulnerable, that those things can happen. And I think they feel more powerful because we are in such a vulnerable state. And when we are creating art, that's when we put the mask down. That's when we lay our hearts out on the table and we dare to move forward and create. I want to read something to you. I'm going to extend this. This is a paraphrase of Carl Jung. It's from a book. The spirit of evil, in negation of the life force by fear, only boldness can deliver us from fear. And if the risk is not taken, the meaning of life is violated. Let me read that again. Take it off the wall here. The spirit of evil is negation of the life force by fear. Only boldness can deliver us from fear. And if the risk is not taken, the meaning of life is violated. Carl Jung, 1912, from Symbols of Transformation. What does that mean? It means... Don't you love practical advice? I'm going to translate Jung for you. I'm going to give you the spark notes. I'm going to give you the cliff notes. It means you got to do it scared. At least that's how I understand it. Because that, when you're thrumming with anxiety, and we're supposed to say, oh, are you nervous? No, I'm excited. No, I'm nervous. As if we can't say that. Yes, we're excited, but also some of us might be nervous, and I'm sure there are millions of you listening who are excited. I am one of the aforementioned people who gets nervous. And I remember, I think it was Kurt Cobain was talking about how he, at a certain stage in his career, he didn't feel that buzz anymore before he would perform. And I know people talk about how that is the most important thing, is that feeling, because it's this tremendous, it's like a reserve of energy that's being unlocked before you do whatever it is you do. For me, it's going on stage. And whatever part of that lizard brain is saying, you gotta get out of here, leave, go, run, flee. There's a saber-toothed tiger. Run. And you're sitting in a coffee shop and you have your guitar by your side or your instrument, and you just ordered a herbal tea and you're saying, no, I know everything in my being is saying flee, but I'm going to stay. And so how does that translate? It can exhibit itself in many different ways. And I would always love to see like a split camera, like what would a camera feed look like? So if I could see myself, actually, I wouldn't want to see that. I'd prefer to just work through it, because for as long as I can remember, I've always tried to train myself to do it scared, because that is where the magic happens. That is where you want to feel your life force. You put yourself in that moment where your voice is shaking, where your palms are sweaty. Isn't that like a Cake song? You're in that state. That's when it's almost like the match is being drug across the matchbox, that little piece of sandpaper, and it's just the tip of that match, it's everything is just striking and about to be lit. It's like a rocket getting ready to be launched. And you can harness that energy. You can harness that energy. When all of that, it's like I was watching the documentary on Netflix on the Challenger, and you watch those rockets ignite, and it's just to you see that happen, and you see all of that energy. And if you can take that energy and translate it and harness it, you can at least be on your way. And I find in those moments, that's where the imposter shows up. That's where the person who, when you're having a really crummy day, says, oh, your zipper's down, or oh, you've got a hole, or you sat on an ice cream sandwich, or you've got gum in your hair, whatever, what have you. It's in those moments. And why is that? I think because we're so open and so raw, because we're in that creative, magical space. But, and there's a big but, there is something very cool that happens. You think you get dopamine from watching a bunch of videos, and we do. You want to get some good old-fashioned natural adrenaline? Do something where you're expressing your artistic need in a situation where you're presenting it to be judged. Throwing yourself before the wolves, even if it goes gloriously bad, it's still absolutely thrilling. And that's what I've found. And it's almost like chasing that feeling, that anticipation when I'm sitting there, waiting to perform, running through the set in my head, running through the songs, and thinking, well, there's a really good chance I'm going to completely blank on the lyrics. And I don't know if you instrument players out there can relate to this. And this is where muscle memory comes in hand. This is why I really try to practice as much as I can, because sometimes when you're up there, everything goes blank and you have to go into autopilot mode. And I was playing the other night and I looked at my fingers and I said, I think those are the right chords. It sounds right. But it felt like I had lost feeling in my fingers. I want to share a little story with you. One of my most favorite singer-songwriters is an artist from Austin, Texas. His name is David Garza. And I was at an Ani DeFranco show in Madison, Wisconsin, in the late 90s, late 1900s. And this guy got on stage with this big old Gretsch guitar, and he had a drummer or a drum machine. I don't even remember. He leveled the place. And I bought his CD the next day. I couldn't believe how amazing this performance was. Years later, when I was living in New York City, he played at the Mercury Lounge. And at the end of the show, he passed out hand-burned CDs that he'd wrapped in photocopied paper and just had it in a bag, and he passed it out to whoever wanted copies, and I grabbed one. And he told everybody, hey, I'm going to be at such and such cafe tomorrow playing the piano. Feel free to stop by. And so I did. He played the piano there for a couple hours, and he's just a tremendous musician. He's played with so many other artists. I've seen him play with the legendary Fiona Apple. I was watching Jimmy Kimmel Live and Fiona was playing. I was like, that's David Garza on guitar. And so David finished his set And then he said hello to those of us that were from the show the previous night. And he said, hey, there's a studio downstairs and I'm going to go jam. You're all welcome to come down and jam with me. So we all walked down and there was this other lounge area underneath this cafe that I didn't even know existed. And at one point, David was playing his guitar and then he passed it to me. And I was like, this is the same guitar that I saw on stage in Madison, Wisconsin. And he just handed it to me. And in that moment, I'm pretty sure I forgot how to play the guitar. And I remember it distinctly. You know that feeling, that tingly feeling when a limb falls asleep? Maybe it was under the pillow funny or it was in an odd position. I had never had. It was like somebody in Harry Potter came up and Armus Sleepus, like hit me with their magic wand. I went to reach for the guitar and my entire left arm and hand fell asleep. Nothing like that has ever happened since or before. And so I was quite stunned and I took the guitar and I put I was afraid it was going to drop. So I was able to finagle the strap over my head. And there was a track playing that he had been jamming to. It was all very fuzzy. And he's like, yeah, man, jam. And I lost complete ability to play any notes. And I couldn't feel my fingers. And so I had a pick. And for about 2 minutes, I just went matching the rhythm of the song. And then I started to feel quite foolish after couple minutes and then saw that I took off the guitar and I passed it back to him and he gave it to somebody else. Why am I telling that story? I have no idea. But I remember in that moment, I felt like a complete, absolute imposter. And I had been playing guitar at that point for probably 10 years, 12 years, I knew how to play guitar. And it was that moment where I felt that I didn't belong. And everything I knew went away. That's why I was talking. That's why I wanted to bring this up, is that when I was performing the other night here in Austin, thankfully my fingers didn't go numb, but I was actually there playing and I was thinking about that moment when David handed me his guitar. Thankfully, it was my own song and I knew the chords, but I had this incredible disconnect while I was watching my hand. And I've noticed this when I've performed or when I've been speaking in public. Something very interesting happens. It is like somebody puts a weird spell over you. And the question is, do you have the ability to navigate that? It feels very wild in the moment because it feels as if you're walking on a tightrope and you're looking down and there's no safety net. And that's exciting. I see those people climb those incredible towers in China or Russia with no safety lines. I watched this one couple. She grabbed the man's arm and he lowered her down over this building. They had to be on the 80th, 90th floor. And he's filming. He's got a GoPro on a headband. That's a lot of trust. And I need to have like alpha brain because I'm not making connections, and that's good. I want to keep this in here because this is exactly what can happen when you're performing live. When you are without a safety net, and yes, it's not as dramatic as risking your life, but it sure can feel like it. I've read that public speaking is one of the greatest anxiety producers, one of the greatest fears. Why is that, though? Why is it something that mimics the feeling of being chased by a lion on the Serengeti? Why is that? Why does our heart rate go up that high? And I think, for me, it comes from the lack of doing it. And so, just like I was talking in previous episodes, if you want to find out how to do something perfectly, just do it, and you'll realize very quickly what works and what does not work. And you will then automatically have that 20/20 vision, like, oh, okay, I need to go do this, bing, bang, boom. And so what I've learned is that the more that I put myself out there, and this was the first time I had played in 4.5 years. The last show I played was at Harmon International in Northridge, California in the fall of 2018. What? It's probably more than 4 years. I'm not mathing right now. And it was a relief, because as soon as I got back up there, as soon as I heard my voice on the microphone, as soon as I heard the guitar through the monitors, and thankfully, the person running the open mic was the perfect person. He's the person who, after your car, you just got a flat tire. After that person makes that wiseacre comment, then another person comes along and they say, "Hey, I've got a jack and I've got a tire patch kit. I can help you out." That was the guy who was at the open mic. Shout out to Zach at the OPA open mic on South Lamar. Zach created such an environment of openness, and he defined it, said, hey, this is the place where it's okay to make mistakes and to incorporate those mistakes into your performance, because none of us are going to know if you biff the lyrics or the chords. Incorporate that into the performance. And one of my favorite bass players and musicians is Victor Wooten. And there's an incredible video on YouTube where he's at NAMM. And he's being interviewed by the YouTuber Music Wins. Music is everything. Music Wins something. This incredible guitar player. Really great channel. And he goes on to talk about how when you're playing and you make a mistake, how to incorporate the mistake. And he does this beautiful example. He's one of the best bass players on the planet. And I think that's such an important thing, because when you're doing it live, you're not in a studio. You don't have unlimited takes on Pro Tools or Logic, or I can't think of any others right now. Avid? Why do I want to say Avid? Ableton. That's it. You get one take. And there is something, I think, so old-fashioned and natural about doing that, because that's how we were before cell phones and all these other devices that get into our brains, where we're able to watch a special moment over and over and over and over ad infinitum. Whereas before, if it happened once, you saw it and then you remembered it. But now these moments get captured in HD and you're able to relive them over and over and over again, the good and the bad. And I don't know if that's good or bad. But all I know is that I like to get back in touch with who I was before cell phones. And I remember I studied abroad in South America, and my one teacher, Eduardo, he said, "Cuando yo veo las cosas, prefiero la marca memoria de mi cámara." He was saying that he likes the taking pictures with his mind. That's the camera that he prefers. He likes to remember it that way. And there's something very special about that. And for me, performing live without a net is one of the most exciting things. Was I perfectly prepared? Absolutely not. Was I nervous? Yes. Was it absolutely thrilling? Heck yeah. And it's like going to the gym or doing a workout or doing something that's good for your body, good for your brain. Your body then starts to crave it, which is pretty cool. Especially if it's something that then allows you to express your art. And I've found this is something that I think is very, very interesting. I feel I'm a very good judge of character. It's like somebody says, have you ever heard anybody say, I'm actually a very bad driver? Everybody's an above average driver, right? Everybody. Have you ever heard anybody say, I have really terrible taste in music? No, we like what we like. Having said that, I know some people. These people are my friends. These people are ridiculously talented. And I was thinking of something. I was watching a video of one of my favorite musicians, Ian Thornley from Big Rack. And he just did an episode of Rick Beato's on his channel on YouTube. And if you hear him talking in reference to his slide playing, which is essentially to be studied, you would think he wasn't that talented. The way he talks about it, he makes it sound like he's like a one-trick pony. He's not. His ability, we'll just talk about his slide playing. It's so incredibly fluid, and it feels that he's doing something very interesting with his note selection, and he's entering into different modes, and it's a sight to behold. It's, in my opinion, some of the best playing in the world for slide playing. And hearing him talk about it in such a way, and he was being completely sincere, it was shocking to me, because he has thousands and thousands of people online who are saying, Ian, your playing is so inspiring to me. It's brought me to tears. And it was a very interesting thing for me to see, because I know how good his playing is. I saw him live a few months ago. It's something to see live and in person. It's quite incredible. And I've noticed this common thread, because the friends that I have in my life, I feel are very, very talented. They all have different wheelhouses, and most of them don't see it as I do. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast, because I want to champion these people. I want to say to them, okay, hear you. Put yourself before the wolves. Put yourself out there. Let you be judged. See how it feels. Let's see what people that you don't know, that are not related to you, that are not friends with you, let's see. Let me see if I'm right on what I think of your talent. And they are some of the most humble, most kind, most introspective and self-aware people that I know. that have had incredible roles in my musical journey. And in the next couple months, you are hopefully going to get to hear them if I can convince them, because their attitudes are, why would you want to interview me? You should interview, so-and-so. I said, no, I want to interview you. I have a lot of questions. So if you're an imposter out there, join the club, and maybe together we can all shed this imposter syndrome and work through this together collectively and rise as the ships in the tide in that beautiful quote, and truly embrace and foster and feed and shovel coal into the engine room of our life force and get out there and do what it is we need to do. I promise I'm going to be doing that right along with you. So if you are just getting started, I'm so happy for you, because I promise the journey is going to be amazing. You're amongst friends. It's always the right time to start, and it's too late to quit. You got this.